Okay, let's talk about the digital SAT math section and specifically what does it take to get a perfect 800 in this section. So I have 8 main things I need to tell you about this, okay? So here's number 1. The first thing is that in order to get an 800, you need to basically get all the questions correct. Like occasionally, I have seen a scoring curve, on a few tests where you could miss or omit one question and still get an 800, but not all of the tests are like that. So the only way to guarantee that you actually get a perfect score is to literally attempt and get it correct. Okay. So this is not that was pretty good, but this is nope, I've got to attempt every single question. So that is the first thing. The second thing about getting a perfect 800 on the math section is, is to either annotate or jot down on your scratch paper that you can bring with you to the digital SAT, make a note about what it is asking you for. Is it asking you the value of K, the value of X plus 5? Is it asking you for N divided by P? Like, what is it actually asking you for? And just jot it down, right? The biggest time I see like careless errors is usually because the student answered what one variable was, but it wasn't the variable that was being asked. So just make sure you're very clear about what in fact is being asked. That is number 2. The third thing is very similar. Let's talk about these careless errors, right? Careless errors mean that you are making like either dumb arithmetic mistakes, not answering what's asked on something right? You knew the concept, you know how to do it, but your execution of the question did not match that because you were probably rushing. So usually at the beginning of the math modules, they tend to have more easy questions than, and as you progress, it tends to get harder. Not a perfect science, but that's roughly what I've seen. Don't rush the beginning just because like, oh, that's so easy. Like, make sure you still, give it the respect it needs. Check, did I answer what it was asking? Did I do this calculation? Did I enter it into my calculator or the Desmos calculator correctly? Just give it the respect it deserves, even if it really looks easy, because those are probably the things you made the careless mistake on in the first place. Okay. So that is number 3. Don't rush just because you think it's easy. So hi there. My name is Kristina. I'm at Ivy Lounge Test Prep, where I help high schoolers like you all over the globe dramatically raise their SAT and ACT test scores and then ultimately get into their dream colleges. And so I'm a bit of a math geek. A little known fact about me, I was a math competition queen in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and then turned down MIT to go to Brown. So I'm a little bit of a math geek, so I really, really care about this topic, okay? So I want to ask you a question, and that is, what is your biggest difficulty thus far with the math questions or the math modules on the digital SAT? If it's something specific or something general, I want to know. So write it in the comments below. And while you're at it, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can always see my latest updates and tips and tricks for the SAT, ACT, and college application essays. Thank you so much. The fourth thing that you need to get right in order to get your perfect 800 in the math section is that you need to know specific math shortcuts so that you are taking up less time solving actual problems. You can be quick, you can be efficient, and you can nab all of those like medium level questions. So I'm just going to list just a few of my favorite things that just make solving a problem simpler, make it less error prone, and get you through the test quicker. One is cross multiplying. I mean, this is so simple. You have a fraction equal to anything else, you cross multiply, and it's no longer a fraction you can solve. Okay. Something else is if you say you have a bunch of fractions, you need to multiply them. Can you simplify them first, or simplify any numerator with any denominator before you then multiply? Basically, make your numbers smaller before you make them bigger. Yes, I know you can use your calculator. But sometimes these things are better done with scratch work on hand, and this is just a simple way you can do that. Another little trick that I like to keep up my sleeve and tell my students is easy percents, right? A lot of percent problems can be totally solved merely by translating English to math word for word. Like, what is 5% of 60? What x is equals 5%, 5 divided by 100 of times 60, 60. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to conceptualize what it means. You literally translate the question word for word and it's done, right? 60 is what percent of 5? Same words, different order. If you were trying to do it by what does this mean, you would probably get a little confused. But if you do it word for word, 60 is equals what percent x over 100 of times 5, 5. You have an equation right there. You didn't have to think about it. You can just do it. So those are just some simple little tricks and hacks. I have so many more, but like those are, some ones I just want to give you right now. So that is number 4, is making sure that you can easily manipulate like your fractions, percents, decimals, and numbers with little tips and tricks like that. Okay, number 5 is that you have to adopt a different mindset to get a perfect score. So remember how to get a perfect score, you basically have to attempt and get every question correct. And maybe you have a leeway of like one question. Okay, here's what that means. You need to know every single concept and formula that might be on this test, even ones that don't show up too often. So you need to know them because maybe it shows up on your test and you can't spare one question, right? So yes, I know they do have some in the Blue Book app. There is in fact a reference sheet. But here's the deal. If you have to look at the reference sheet to know like your special right triangles, to me, what that says is you don't know the concept well enough. Okay. And now you're just wasting time. So if you don't know it well enough that you don't need the reference sheet, then you don't know it well enough. And you're probably not going to get a perfect 800 on the SAT math section. Okay. So that is number 5, which is adopt a perfect scores mentality, which is don't leave any topic unturned, like study all of them and know them inside and out. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is improving what I call your math intuition. And believe me, this will start to get better when you become more well versed in all the concepts of, your problem solving, your algebra, your geometry, trig, functions, advanced math. When you become really fluent in your math and in your numbers and how they work, you start to develop a certain intuition of what the test is really asking for, right? So when the questions get harder in each module, what you really need to do is you have to figure out what math topic is actually needed, right? So usually the calculations themselves are easy. You could probably do them without the calculator, but you have to read between the lines. You have to see if there's some secret relationship between some of the bits of information that maybe gives you another piece of information that you didn't immediately see. So here are some ways, again, tip of the iceberg, but some ones I can think of just off the top of my head that you can improve what I call your math intuition. So look at how the answers are formatted, right? What math topics does that remind you of? Are they percents? Are they all like, do they look like ratios? Are they like decimals? Are they, something squared? Does it look like factoring? They're parentheses with like X's and numbers in the middle of them. Like, just if you were to write look in a math book, what chapter do you think that would be in? That might help you recall those specific formulas, okay? Let's say there's a geometry question and there are multiple figures in it. Like you see, I don't know, a triangle, a square, or there's a circle too, something like that. Why would the test maker choose those particular shapes, right? What's the relationship between them? Like, is a diagonal of one the diameter of another? Like, especially for circles, like there's got to be something in there that relates to both. And your job is to find that missing piece, that missing connection. Another thing that should tip you off and should, make your math intuition go into overdrive is what I call clumping. So let's say it doesn't ask you, what is X? But instead the question asks yourself, what is 2X minus 3? Well, now that's a weird thing to ask. So you've got to ask yourself, like, why? Why did the test ask me what 2X minus 3 is instead of just what X is? And usually that means that there's a shortcut. Usually there's a way to get to that weird thing, the 2X minus 3, faster than if you then figured out what X is and then plugged in X to 2X minus 3 and solved for that. So there's probably a shortcut. Like, so why did they ask that? Another one, if they give you some weird shape you've never seen, a weird shape you've never seen is either a combination of like shapes you do know, either added together or subtracted from each other. That's it. But if you know all the two-dimensional geometrical shapes that are on the test, then you know them. Okay. Um, like, and because geometry, I love talking about this, even though I know it's a small part of this test, but like volumes. If you really think about it, there's only three type of things they could ask. Everything, they might have specific names, but everything basically falls into three types of shapes. It's either a pyramid, it's a prism, or it's a sphere. Like that's it, right? And they're basic general formulas for those. And if you know them, don't distract yourself with the specifics of each, like you can figure it out. Same with triangles. There are really only 6 things they can ask you with a triangle, like what? Area, volume, the 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, complementary angle relationship, that all angles add up to 180. Like that's basically all they can ask you. So like, which thing is it? Like that's pretty much it. So that is number 6, is using your math intuition, which comes from learning all those formulas and getting really, really clever with how the questions are formatted and how they're asked. Okay, number 7. Okay, so if you are in doubt about what an answer might be, here's a good trick: is what's one step you can take to make what you were given visually appear more like the format of what the answer choices are if it's a multiple choice question. So you get something that doesn't seem at all related to these answer choices, but you look at the answer choices, they all appear to be fractions. Okay, how could you make yours look like a fraction? Oh, they have g squared in the numerator. Cool. Do you need to move around your g squared to be in a numerator? Do you need to square something to make it be g squared? Because that's what you're seeing in the answer choices. Like, what's one step you can do to visually make what you have closer to what the answer choices are? That might also be a clue. And the final thing is you gotta just relax and focus, right? So if you've done the work, if you have done like literally, you've learned all the formulas, you've learned all the content, and I literally have all the formulas you could possibly need and all the concepts you could possibly need to know in my digital SAT math cram plan, which is in my ultimate digital SAT math guide course, right? If you've learned all the things, you've got to trust that, because they can't ask anything that's like not on the menu. Okay, like they're not allowed to. So College Board is not allowed to like have questions about things that they didn't say were up for grabs on the test. So if you don't recognize the concept, you've just got to trust you did in fact learn it. If you learned everything you were supposed to, you did learn it, and you just have to trust your gut and just kind of figure out which thing it is. And the final thing is, keep in mind that God forbid you get a 770, that is pretty awesome too. Okay. So with that, I wish you the best of luck of getting your perfect 800 on the math. If you need my help, you can find out how to either work with me one-on-one, or again, you could look at my digital course and ebook, the Ultimate Digital SAT Math Guide, in the links below. Thank you and have a wonderful day.